Hey everybody, welcome back to It's a Metal Thing. Today I'm going to get the engine where it belongs and mount it. So let's do it. All right, so one of the determining factors on, or part of the determining factor on the engine placement is going to be where the axle lands and the steering, whatever. I put my axle together, stuck it up underneath there. I'm going to need a steering arm. Trying to find one online, but I couldn't find one that I wanted to use. So I'm going to do the tie rod on the rear of the spindle in the lower position, and I want to do the steering part on the top arm, top of the spindle. The problem is the arm that you get for the tie rod isn't deep enough. I've seen people use these on the top and they use a spacer, but there's no need for that if you can build your own, which I'm going to do. So I need to extend that upper arm out for the camber, because the camber on this, this is obviously deeper than this. This one fits on here, but I'm going to make a longer hoop over here. Plus two, I'm going to make it straight since it's coming out. I'm just going to come off here straight, come off of this straight. It'll put it pretty much in line with this added depth here. And since this angle's out, it should end up pretty close to the same position here. I'm gonna make it the same length. It's the same length as my steering arm, just to keep everything all equal and uniform. So I'm going to actually just cut that out. I could probably go down and have somebody draw it up and have it laser cut or water jet, but why would I do that when I have a cutting torch over there? So I'm gonna cut this out, grind it all up, machine the surfaces, do all the machine work, and make an arm for the top. So I'm gonna do that right now. All right, my buddy capped the hole first. I located this hole first, because once this is made, once this is cut out, the bottom piece, it's not gonna be any really good place to grab, because all the angles will be similar to this. There's not really a good place to grab to drill and tap that hole. So I'm going to, this is about where I want it. This is the distance I'm going to go off, and it's got kind of flesh here, but that's all right. So I'm just going to draw a line straight. I'm going to end up, I want the same kind of bulbous end because it looks more manufactured and a little less homemade. And I'll do the same, come over here, and I'm just going to leave these long. So yeah, I'm going to draw here some soapstone and cut it with my torch, which I haven't used in a minute. So most of the cutting I do is with my plasma, and I could probably cut this with plasma, but it would take forever, and it can get off. I think the straighter, nicer cut is going to be with the torch. At least I hope so. So we'll find out here in a minute. All right, steering arm's made. This isn't the original one. I had to make some changes to it with the camber in the front end, and this axle being 2.5 inches. I was running into interference on this. So I drilled the holes at an angle in a 1-inch piece of plate, and then I milled the backside a little bit. It's still really close, but it'll work, it works. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna have the height I need to clear the spring, where the spring goes. We're gonna find out later. If I have to remake it or do something different, I will. But this is gonna help me now as far as getting the engine steering and all that relationship figured out, so. All right, so I tried the Detroit Speed alternator relocator. I thought it was going to have a pretty decent change. It was only gonna move it 1/4 inch. I couldn't get it to go on. It wasn't lining up. They ask you to do some relief cuts on the timing cover to just give it more tolerance. You can see all my aluminum shavings on the ground. And I did that. It was enough to get it in the plane that it needed. So I could get this rotated up enough for this to line up where it needed to be. But the problem was when the aluminum bracket was bolted into place, this hole wasn't lining up. They were like half a hole off as far as this direction. Not so much getting it up far enough. That wasn't the issue. The issue is it bolted to here and here, and then it relocated this. But when I got them all in place, this hole was still like half off. I couldn't get the bolt in. So I had to modify the bracket or do something else. So it wasn't so much that I couldn't get it up far enough, which is an issue on these, but also too, the hole placement was off in line this way. So I'm going to notch the frame. I'm going to plasma out a chunk here. I'll box it in after I get the engine out when it comes to the final time. I'm not worried about strength on here because there'll be a down bar coming from the dash bar down to the front here. So it'll have strength that way. And then once I box it, I'm not worried about it moving side to side. So that's the alternative, and that's what I'm gonna do, because I need to come over like at least an inch. I'm 2 inches offset now. I don't mind like 1 inch. Most cars are offset for steering anyway. So I'm going to cut this out and scooch this over. Then I have to work on getting the engine level. I'm not sure what I'm gonna level off of. I don't know if this is a good reference point here. I'll probably have to go off the oil pan. I'll find a place that's level. And then also too, I have to work on getting it in line with the chassis, so front to back. So first things first, plasma out a chunk, get it over where I want it, and then I can work on all the other dimensions that need to be done. So that's next. Notched. It'll be clean when I fill it in. I'm about 1 inch offset now. I could go over a little more if I want, probably can. I'm going to set the vertical or the center line. I'm gonna pull a plumb off of the crank here. I'll measure down and back and see where I'm at as far as straight this way. I'll straighten it up, see where I'm at, and then once that's set, then I'll figure out level. Kind of want to put the headers on, but I can't because the engine's sitting on this. I kind of want to see where the exhaust is going to come out, but they're all going to come up, so it doesn't really matter. But I think we'll be all right on the steering. Pretty sure. I got the steering arm on. That steering arm 3.4, 3.0, 3.2. Turned out good. It's a little close. He kind of messed up when he tapped the holes. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I mean, it's clears, so I'm happy with it. So I'll bring the steering over here and it'll be pretty low. So I'm going to just get this thing lined up and then move on from there. Okay, engine's straight. It's level. Now I'm gonna start working on motor mounts. I got the material not too long ago and made my own bushings. I had my buddy make them actually. I could have made them, but he wanted to do it. So anyway, maybe he didn't, I don't know. I have done. So the only thing I have to worry about now is this bolt is 4.5 inches long. It's probably like a 1/4 inch longer than it needs to be. There's gonna be a 1/4 inch plate on either side of this thing, plus the nut. So I mean, I'm pretty close. One thing you have to worry about on this side in particular is I gotta get that bolt out. So I either gotta fudge it forward this way, because I gotta worry about the starter and the AC. So I'm not really sure. I think it'd be better if this was forward. I'll make a decision later. Right now I'm just gonna make some tabs. I'll probably come just 90 degrees off of this, straight off of this. I wanna stay away from the heat off the exhaust. Don't wanna melt any bushing. So it might be almost where it's flush or level with this. It might come straight off this tube onto there. So first thing I'm gonna do is make 4 tabs. There is a little bit of an angle to this, so it needs to be plumb and parallel with the world. So when you go to take the motor out, it goes straight up. You don't want to do some weird, angle or anything. So you have to keep in mind that this needs to be square to the car. So the tabs will be a slightly different shape. So I'm gonna work on those tabs. Do that next. Something like that. So pretty stout. I put a little washer in here when you clamp it together, just to make sure you have a little bit of room for finishes and whatever. Plus you don't want to make it so tight you can't get it in. So this is gonna have to go up in here. Twist a little bit, twist a little bit. Twist it, get up there, damn it. Something like that. It's gonna be, I want it level with the world, right? Looks like I'm gonna have to take a little bit of material off the back one. I'm gonna have to scooch it far forward. I'm gonna have to measure that too, make sure I got my 4.5 inches so I can get that stupid thing out of there. I'm gonna be right up against that front hardware. I don't know, man. I might have to, I don't know. I'm gonna have to, I'm too quick measurement here. I can't do it with my phone in my hand. So yeah, I need to get that bolt out of there. So I'm gonna make sure I got enough room. Looks like I don't. So I might, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll have to figure it out now. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Negative. It's gotta come out a long ways too. So I'm gonna have to, instead of coming off this square, I'm gonna have to come off at an angle. So instead of this being in the center of the 4 inches, I'll offset this bushing and get like a triangle style. Not a triangle, I don't know what you call it. Hypotenuse, an obtuse. super loose, whatever it's called, I don't know, but I know how to get it there. So I'm gonna make some new ones. I could use these on the other side, but then it won't match or look right. You know, it's gotta be, you know, symmetrical. I mean, it's gonna be different, there's no doubt about it, but at least it's gotta kind of look the same. So I'm going back to the drawing board. I'm gonna make some new brackets and just bring it out this way more. Plus two, it's getting kind of low in here. So it's gonna be, I mean, it's probably right in the center of this tube, which wouldn't be bad, but yeah, I'm gonna bring this off at a different angle. Try it, get above this thing. So that's next, good times. Okay, motor mount bracket 2.0. So this was 2.5 and it's centered in the 4-inch flat bar. I added a half inch, so it came 3 inches out. I can cut this if I need to. I need to get the clearance around that starter on the passenger side. Also two, I made these, I offset them up a little bit to get a little more height. And when I did that too, I made 1/8 inch difference between these two for the angle of that motor mount plate, because it's angling up. It's about 1/8 inch. When I had these tacked on earlier, you can see maybe the tack marks. There's one here and one here. It's not quite 1/8, but so just to get these to where they're gonna line up here, to get this angle in here to keep the motor mount flat, I made that a little bit different, so hopefully that'll work. So I'm going to bolt it together, hold it up here, tack it in, and see if I can get that bolt out and clear that starter. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, happy with that. It lines up on the top, just for aesthetics. This ends up level, the bolt will come out. My only concern now is how close it is to the exhaust. UHMW is good to 200 degrees. I don't know that it'll get that hot. I might get some Delrin, which is good to 400. I don't know, I'll think about it for the final assembly. I think I might just go ahead and get some Delrin and make some Delrin bushings. I don't know how it'll get. I have no idea. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I do know this comes out. I do know this is level. Oh, and also too, it ended up near where I wanted it. It's like maybe it's 1/16 of an inch. So what I'm gonna do is I'll probably end up running a piece of rectangle tubing off of here and fish mouth it around there. And that'll be plenty strong. If I have to, I'll put a gusset going down this way. One of my concerns is the steering on the other side. But on this side, this is good. I'm gonna break it loose. I'm gonna flip these around, put it on the other side, see what it looks like. I'll get these made up and tacked in, and then my steering column comes tomorrow. I'll get a better idea of where my steering is gonna end up. I don't know if this is gonna work. I might run into leaf springs here. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I could build a spacer, which I think is hokey. I might build another arm. Like again, I said, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm gonna try to make it as best I can. So for now, this is good. Going to make two more like this. Well, first I'm gonna take it off, flip it around, put it on the other side, see what it looks like. If it's gonna work, then I'll make two more of these arms and then at least get this part out of the way. So that's next. All right, time to mess with the steering box. This is a Flaming River Vega box. Obviously it mounts on here, so I need to make a plate that this is gonna mount to. I have some nice, fresh, beautiful 3/4 inch plate. I'm going to cut 4 3/4, which is this dimension from here to here. I'm gonna have my buddy mill a 3/8, it's about 3/8 from this point right here to this pad here. That's why I went with so thick. If I went with 1/2 inch, it would be a little thin. Probably be all right, but why not? We'll see. I don't know, we'll see. This is pretty stout. I could go with 5/8 probably. I have this, so I'm gonna cut it out and see what it looks like. If it's too ugly and too weird and too giant. But steering has a lot of load on it. If you look at frames over the years from different cars and stuff, sometimes they crack out there. I don't want this to be an issue. We'll see how this looks. If it looks too big and giant, maybe we'll mill some material off or something just to clean it up. Maybe run a couple of passes over this and get an 1/8 inch off of it and then do that. Might go that way, we'll see. Anyway, first things first, cut this at 4 3/4. All All right, so my steering column showed up. This is the Pro Light. I did it. It's for a 65 to 67 Mustang. Should be the same. I held it in there. It looks like it's gonna be close. This might be right. Might be close to what it was originally. They really stick out pretty far from the dash. I'm going to bolt this up and see where it lands. I think this is right at the firewall right there, which is all right, I think. I might want it to extend down farther. I don't know what I'm gonna do on that, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna, I'm gonna throw it up, but I think it's gonna stick out too far. I'm making like an adapter and put it up on there. So I got some bolts. These, I did it so they all have Chevy spline on them. I called that buddy of mine. He's got the Nova, big block Nova gasser. I asked if he had his Chevy steering wheels. He's had this one that he took off his gasser. So I'm gonna put that on there and kind of see where we're at. So I'm gonna do that next. All right, that's not gonna work. Obviously the Mustang dash is different than the Falcon dash. And obviously the steering location, or the steering mount's in a different place. I think, you know, the Mustang dash is probably longer and leaner, so it goes farther down that way. So it makes more sense that the shaft is up too far. I'll just cut that bracket off and move it. I ordered one of these from Speedway that was plain aluminum because I was going to paint it white. It was on back order for like 5 weeks. So I'm not worried about this finish. I'm gonna paint it white anyway, so just cut that bracket off, move that down a couple inches. That's gonna help with that, but also it's gonna help with the distance that the shaft is sticking out. I'm sure the shaft is the right length, just that mounting tab is put in the wrong spot. I'm going to leave that there for now till I get the steering box mount made. I got my buddy, I cut a piece of that 3/4 inch plate. I cut it 4 3/4, which is this width here. I have a big long piece, whatever this is, 12 inches. That's going to sit over here. The 1/2 inch is going to machine this 1/2 inch groove in here so that this piece can sit on here and they can touch these 4 pads. Going to transfer the holes, drill them out, mount that on there. That way I can move that thing around on the frame. Let's be able to clamp it to the frame and move it forward or back up and down to try to get both the steering shaft and the steering arm to work. So I'm gonna do that next. All right, no one's ever gonna accuse me of underbuilding, that's for sure. So a little bit of it, just perfect. Hole already stripped out. You know, you pay extra for something you think is gonna be better. When I was just threading these in to see what hole size it was sloppy, like going in, and it started getting better as, you know, the farther you went in. But I mean, I was tightening it with that wrench. Didn't even like moose on it at all, and it stripped the hole. So I gotta drill and chop all those holes out and make them bigger, which is not a bad thing, I guess. But come on, man. I don't know how much I paid for that thing, but it wasn't cheap. All right, so now I can stick this thing in there and see where I'm at. I'll do that next. All right, so I'm kind of close to where it needs to be. There's some movement I can make up. So I'm going to move this shaft down farther. I have this piece that came with the column. I'm going to cut. I'm not gonna use it when it comes time. I'll make the proper hole myself. But I'm gonna notch this out, cut this out with a plasma cutter so I can get that in there. I'm gonna cut it across here so I can tack this in place and have this bearing in here. And I'll be able to slide it in and out and get a feel for where I'm at. I called a buddy of mine that has a Ranchero, and it's sticking out about an inch farther than stock, but that's still too much. So I'm probably gonna go in like 2.5. What I'm gonna end up doing is I'll tack this piece in. I'll be able to get a location on that lower bearing or lower mount, and then I can get in the car and I'll move it in and out and get a feel for where it needs to be. I'll take a measurement, cut that bracket off, and then that'll give me a better idea of where I'm at. I had this piece of tubing, literally it's fit right on the end of the box on that little shaft there, and it was laying up in here. So it clears, almost clears here. So when I bring this down some more, I'll get a better idea what I gotta do here. If I do a custom thing on this side, I'll do that. I think I'm gonna clear the exhaust, no problem. The other issue is the alternator. It's close, about within an inch of the alternator. So also too, I'm gonna have to come up on that steering arm because I don't think it's gonna clear the the spring, but I'll know more about that later. But so first things first, get that bearing tacked in and see where I'm at. So the seat's about where I want it. Good height here. This is good. Plenty of leg room. This is not bad actually, but if somebody needs to scooch forward in this thing and they're as fat as I am, this would be a problem. So I'm gonna move that in a little bit. I wanted to use the stock steering wheel, but I can't because this different spline. But if I could make a stock steering wheel work, I could get a little more distance. This is about maybe, I don't know, they're pretty close actually. Pretty close to the same depth, maybe a ½ inch more. Plus a bigger diameter will work better in a manual box. But I'll worry about that later. I think I'm good on this. I mean, 2 inches in, I'll be all right. So I'm going to cut that, take it out, cut that bracket, move it 2 inches, because I need the spline anyway, so it's gotta go forward. So I'm gonna do that next. Welded up. I moved it about 2 3/8 probably, because when it was sitting in there, it was all the way as far forward as it could go on this slot, so I can move it around a little bit more, give me a little more room. So I'm gonna let that cool. Let's just touch it. I'm gonna let that cool a little bit. Now I'm gonna stick it back in there. All right, it's sitting where it's gonna be, I believe. I'm pretty happy with that. I have this piece of 3/4 inch square stock that I had laying around. I just kind of wedged it in there. This is just clamped on so I can push that forward and hold it in place. So looks like I have pretty good clearance from my frame to my shaft. I'm not sure if I'm running, this is a 3/4 inch piece of tube. I'm gonna run either 1 inch D or 3/4 inch D. If I can get a 1 inch D, I will. Just stronger. There's clearance between the alternator, that's good. The mount, I can't come off the top anymore. Obviously, I'm gonna have to come up the bottom with a piece of rectangle tubing. I'll cut it at an angle and get it to match up here, and then I can run a gusset back up, so it'll clear there. Exhaust, I think I'm gonna be all right. Part of the reason I want to get this all tacked in so I could take these off, these lifters off, and put those headers on upside down and see kind of where we're at. That's what I need to do. The box is pretty much where it's gonna be. This arm, I'm afraid it's gonna have to come up. I think it's gonna hit the spring. I have this axle at 12 degrees. That's what Bill called out. He said between 8 and 12. He said the more the better, so 12 it is. Yeah, I'm worried about spring interference with the cross link, the drag link. So I might have to remake that again and move it up. If that's the case, I can get a straight arm for this. So I can do whatever I have to do on this arm to make that work. I never did check forward to back. I might have to move the box a little more forward maybe, I don't know. I think I'm good there. I can make that work. So now I got to build the mounts parts and tack it all together so I can take these out and see where I'm at with the exhaust. So I'm gonna do that next. All right, bushing in. I have it parallel with the frame. This spacer in there fits just in there. It's level with the world with my digital angle finder. I need to build the lower mount now. So I went and bought some 2.5 inch by 1.5 inch, 1/88 wall rectangle tubing. So the plan is to cut a 12-inch piece of this, going to drill a pilot hole through the center, going to use a hole saw, cut halfway through, flip it over, cut the other way. They'll have a nice 2-inch coping on each end of here. I'll make a template to get the angle right, where it's gonna land on the frame. I don't know if I'm gonna go like maybe 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch off the bottom, kind of come up at whatever the angle ends up being, just to make sure it's the same on both sides. And I have the rest of this tubing I'm gonna use. No one says I ever underbuild. I'm gonna use this for the cross member for the transmission. So first things first, engine mounts. Turned out, I'm gonna deburr a little bit, make a template, cut the angle, tack them in. Okay, motor mount in, tacked in, fat tacks, not going anywhere. It's a little lower than I was originally planning, but then I remembered I need to have it lower for the steering shaft on the other side. So I'm gonna make up another mount and tack it in and put the steering shaft in and see, or the steering shaft simulator, and see where we're at. But I think we should be all right. So I'm gonna do that now. Motor mounts are done. Happy with where that is. There's clearance there. I got a 1/2 inch here. I got a 1/2 inch on the bottom between here and that mount. So the steering's pretty much figured out. Might move around a little bit. I can go in and out a little bit with the steering shaft yet, and up and down and move around this. So I got plenty of play and room. Probably not gonna nail that down till I get the axle where it needs to go. But I'm going to end this video here. That took a lot longer than I thought with the steering and the steering shaft and all that stuff I had to go through. So the video is getting a little long. So I'm gonna end it. I'm going to, next I'm gonna do the transmission mount. I'm gonna do that in a separate video. So if you like the video, subscribe, check me out on Instagram, It's a Metal Thing. And yeah, just come back. It's coming along. Check you on the next one.